It's time to take your business to the next level, the boss level. These are the premier business owner strategies and successes being utilized by the industry's top talent today. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss. Now let's welcome your host, Ann Ganguza.
Hey everyone, welcome to the VO Boss podcast and our Balance series. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and I'm excited to start my day again with the lovely Erikka J. Hey Erikka,
Hey,
how are you?
How are you? I'm pretty good.
I'm doing good.
Hanging in there.
It's been a crazy year or couple of years, hasn't it?
It has, yeah, for sure.
And I have to say that I got a job offer the other day to do something for a political candidate. And it made me think, because my thoughts about voicing things for, let's say, political and or let's say anything else that maybe I may or may not believe in have changed and have evolved over my career here. And I thought it might be an interesting conversation to have with you.
Yeah.
Maybe our moral compass, so to speak.
Yeah. Balancing that and balancing your yeses, maybe. You know what I mean? Like what you say yes to and your no's. Because your no's can shape your career just as much as what you do decide to voice.
Oh, right there. That's a golden nugget. We can go home now because that says it all, honestly. I think sometimes no is even more powerful than a yes and can really help define in so many ways. Well, just a little more on that job that I was talking about. You know, it was for a political spot, and I literally went so far as to look up the candidate because it wasn't evident by the content right away what was happening there. I ultimately said no to it because it did not align with my beliefs, and not just the copy, but because I said it was hard to tell with the copy because it was a candidate that wasn't as well known. And so I just said no. And I'm thinking about myself maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago or even later than that, I might have said, you know what, it's a gig. It's a political gig. Let's do it. Let's get on board. What about you? I know you do a lot of political work, and it may not just be political work, but...
Yeah, I do a lot of political. And in the very beginning of my career, like literally, like I had been probably doing voiceover for like a month. And I did have a quasi-political sort of thing come to me. But now kind of looking back on it, and it was weird because when I did it, I was like, well, you know, I'm just starting and oh my gosh, they booked me and they want me and I could do it, you know, and it's like, it's kind of borderline, but I'll just do it. And I've regretted it ever since. And it probably lived for like 2 weeks. It was something that was very short term, but it was supporting a candidate that I was not in support of somewhat. Like I said, a roundabout, like I didn't say their name, but it was just that I learned that not all work is good work. If it's going to misalign with your gut and how you feel and your own beliefs. And if from a more business standpoint, misalign with your brand. You don't want to jeopardize the trust that you've built with your clients that do align with your values and your brand. And then they're like, well, why is she voicing this? So I stopped doing that.
Yeah. And I find that now, especially now, because it's such a divisive climate these days politically, that I think it's just shaping my business in a way that I didn't anticipate, number one. Not that I do a ton of political. I mean, I do enough political to know. Now I'm absolutely like checking on the candidates, going to their webpage and finding out if their beliefs align with mine, because I'm just not willing to have my voice recognized. And then another client, like you were mentioning, a longstanding client, maybe, I don't know, not align with that and then maybe have issues with me voicing for them in the future. But it's not even so much about that. It's become now about my performance too. I want to make sure it's hard to create a believable performance when you don't align with the client that you are voicing for.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be political. I think it could be anything. You know, now we've got one of our next episodes is probably going to be all about AI, but with AI jobs, right? Are they going to recognize my voice? And then will there be, I don't know, judgment in one way or another? Because that's also something that people have very strong feelings about.
Yeah. Like you said, definitely not just political. Yeah, just kind of, it definitely comes out in your performance. Like, yes, we can take on feelings and emotions and words that are not our own. I truly believe that when you're not enjoying the performance, when you really are not totally invested in it, it's going to come through somehow, some way. And, you know, the client might say there's something about it, or it might just be a difficult session when they're really trying to pry it out of you. It's going to come out in the wash when it's not real. So I just prefer to say no. And I find that when I say no, the right things come along to replace it. So it's kind of having that kind of mindset, not having the scarcity mindset of, oh, I have to take the job
Right.
because it came, having a more
Right.
abundant mindset of, I'll release this thing that isn't for me so it can go to the right person and the right thing will come to me. So, yeah.
Exactly. And that applies in so many things. If I can, the power of no. And especially when you're negotiating, also, I think that makes a huge difference in terms of I don't have to take this. If you have that thought process of, you know what, I don't have to take this job.
Yeah.
And I have the confidence that if I say no to this job, that it will give me room for the next job to come along and fulfill my need for, I don't know, money to support my whatever, to support me
Yes.
in this career. So the power to say no is huge. And when you are negotiating, that confidence that you have the power to say no
Yeah.
and that you are okay knowing that if you say no, everything's going to be okay and that something else will come along and fill its place. That is
Yeah.
huge. And I think that a lot of people, when they first start out in the industry, it's a scary thing to negotiate a job
Yeah.
because they're afraid that they're going to lose the job if they quote too high. And so therefore they settle. I think you only have to have a few negative experiences when you settle and then you get that client that doesn't align with what you want your business to be.
Right.
And then they kind of nickel and dime you on every little thing that they want from you. And those are clients that when I get really, I only had a couple that really came back and nickel and dime me. And I was like, you know what? I did not quit my full-time cushy job to come to a job where I could be beat up by my clients.
Yeah.
This is why I got out of it. And so I want to just tell any voice actor out there that is beginning, you do not need to suffer through a client that is abusing you, so to
My
speak.
goodness.
Right?
Yeah, definitely talking about balancing yeses and nos. That is such a great
Yeah.
point on rates because, like you said, the
Mm-hmm.
ones that don't necessarily want to pay your price are the ones that are going to have the most demands, want the most
Yes.
pickups or little changes, or, well, could you,
Yep.
say this one with like going up, like that really like line read you type things
Yeah.
and, things like
Yep.
that. But yeah, not being afraid to fire clients. I think that that's
Yeah.
so important.
When they don't value you. It's
Exactly.
all
Yes.
about the value,
For
right?
sure.
You've got to understand that what you do is of value. And we say this over and over and over again, but it's so interesting how it always comes back into play in these, the power of no, the moral, ethical compass that you have in working. It's not just, oh, do you take a political side? It's a moral compass when working with a client who may not treat you as if your services are valued.
Yeah.
And that I think is huge. And like I said, I did not give up my cushy job. And thankfully I had a cushy job. I say thankfully and gratefully, but I did not give it up to go into business for myself to be handled by my clients in a way that is not aligning with what I want my business to be and someone that doesn't value me.
Yeah.
And that is a huge, huge thing. And it's a huge thing when you talk about AI, right? And we think that the AI industry is out to get the voice talent and to take away their jobs and to devalue them. I personally, just through the VO Boss podcast and all of my interviews, have been fighting to have AI companies value the artist and value the voice and value the asset of voice because they value other assets, right? If you think about some of these big advertising companies, they value the product. Well, if the voice is representing the product, how can you not value that voice? How can you not treat that voice with the respect that you treat the product? Because it's a part of
Yeah,
it.
you're bringing a branding element that nobody else can bring. You have something, this voice, this tone, this way of delivery that they have chosen to represent their brand.
Mhm.
That's the value and should be given the proper respect for that. And even to your prior point, I do still have my nice job. But I think the thing is, like, even at work, not to take it too far off topic, but just valuing yourself and whatever value you are bringing to the table in any business transaction, really in any transaction at all, any relationship. And if you command that respect for yourself and knowing that when you set those boundaries and say, nope, that's not for me, or I'm not going to allow you to treat me that way, you make space for the right things to come. So that comes with rates, that comes with the way clients treat you, that comes with the way your boss treats you. If you have a job and they're not treating you right, find something else.
Absolutely. I love that you brought that up, especially in the corporate environment, because I know a lot of reason why people may be getting into the voiceover industry, right, is to escape the job where they don't feel valued. I worked in the corporate world. Corporate is one of my specialty genres in coaching and in what I do in voiceover. And I always felt that corporate became the way that I was winning because I would do corporate voiceover and I thought, here's the way that I don't have to go in and be mistreated in a board meeting, right, by members of the company or, not valued. Here I can do the job, don't have to go to any meetings. Well, maybe a meeting with a person that's paying me, but basically I'm in, I'm out, and I got paid.
Exactly.
And so therefore I win.
Yeah.
I win at corporate.
Yep.
But I do happen to love corporate and I understand the corporate way. And in reality, as voice artists, we are hired pretty much by companies, whether they are companies that have a product or broadcasting companies, they're still companies. And again, you want to be valued by that company that you work for. And it's just something that resonates, whether you're in a company wanting to get out to form your own company, right? That you need to be valued.
Yeah.
You need to be valued and you have the space to morally and ethically say no to create a good balance in your life for not just getting paid what you're worth, but just having joy in what you're doing.
And you have to remember that like these businesses, they're not saying yes to every single partnership or every contract. And you as a voice talent, I know that it's easy for creators and artists to kind of see ourselves as beneath or as, well, we're so grateful to get a job. But we are B2B businesses. So when we are working or deciding to choose to work with another company, that is a partnership. And you have to decide if that partnership is right for you, just like the big corporations do. You're no different.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's such a great point. Wow. So do you have any examples of jobs that you've said no to yourself?
Oh, boy. I know I do. Let's see. I've definitely said no for rates.
Yeah.
And the couple times where I might have bent, I regretted it.
Because then they would come back and want every little pickup.
Either they wanted more or it was just like when I did it, it wasn't as fulfilling and I was just kind of like dreading it. And then I send the invoice and I'm like, I can't believe I put myself through that for this. You know what I mean? So I kind of stopped bending. The times that I do kind of bend more on rates are like if it's something I really want to do and I really believe in, like PSAs or for nonprofits and stuff like that. But I have more times than I can count, just said, hey, this is my rate. This is what it is. And if they say, it's not going to work for us, great. Definitely say no a lot for usage. And that's something, I'm open about the fact that I do participate on P2Ps, just really voice 1, 2, 3 right now. But I'm very careful to make sure that anything that says in perpetuity, these contracts or these blatant boilerplate things that they send out, I got to make sure that I'm protected, that they're not going to use it for broadcast use or try to use it in perpetuity without it being totally kind of safe from creating conflicts in the future. And I'll say no very quickly for those.
Yeah. I want to point out that a lot of times there's a panic, right? If I say no, I won't get hired again. And I just want to say, like in life, right? Think about the products that you buy. You can choose to buy a product that's maybe cheaply made and that doesn't last as long or it's not as good value. Or you can buy the stuff that has served you well in the past, right? A trusted brand that lasts a long time or you can depend on it over and over again. And when it comes to that, you don't care what you pay for it for the most part, right? And I think that even though we think voiceover might be going down the tubes because online casting came and now AI is coming and people think, well, it's just be devalued. And so what's going to happen? Well, I think it's human nature that there's always going to be the division of, okay, so there's good value or maybe there's not so good value. And I don't think that's going to change whether pay-to-plays are in the picture or AI is in the picture because people are always going to want to buy the thing that gives them the best value. And that does not always equate to money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You'll always have buyers for the dollar store sort of, genre.
Yeah.
You'll always have buyers that are more in like the Target sort of realm. And then you'll have your Neiman Marcus folks. Like it's always, there are people that are price driven and those that are quality driven. And there's just different types of buyers. And it's just which one do you align with?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And those buyers can change at any given moment. There may be times when I feel like I don't need top of the line. I don't know. I always go to the girl things. I don't need top of the line lipstick now, but I always need a good hairdresser.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I feel like I want to be that voiceover artist where people say, well, all right, I can forego maybe this part of the project, but I cannot live without and Ganguza for my
There
voice.
you go.
But that's what you want to try to manifest
sure.
for your business, right? They say Erikka J, man, she is like no other. She delivers. I love her voice. I can't live without her.
Yeah.
And that's the type of client that you want. And there's a lot of clients out there, guys. I don't think we need to be worried that you're not going to be able to get a client that will support that value and support your business. And I think you just have to believe. And I know a lot of times it took me years to kind of get that belief and that confidence. And it's funny because it's still evolving. And I've been in this for over 15 years now.
Yeah, it's like a muscle. You have to keep stretching it. Yeah.
It is like a muscle. It keeps growing. And you just, like every day you realize, wow, you know what? I'm going to be okay. People are going to want to hire me, right? Because I deliver value. And then even if there are other things like pay to plays have become, it's tough. It's a lot of competition. Well, maybe that's something that you evolve out of and you do something different. And again, you always have to have that balance of this is aligning with my business morally, ethically, and what's my other word? Does it bring me joy? Right?
Yeah.
There is that balance that makes my business go round kind of thing and makes me happy that I do what I do. And when it no longer makes me happy or no longer fulfills my quota of I need to support myself, right? Well, then maybe I evolve into something else. And what's given me the strength to be okay with that is the fact that I have built my business up and that I have succeeded.
Yeah.
I always say this, if the voiceover industry were to fall out, I'd be okay because I have learned how to operate a business myself. And I know that I can evolve and I will evolve because I've proven it to myself before. And I know that you bosses out there can do the same.
Absolutely.
I'm not anybody special. I think there's something to be said for longevity and in following your moral compass. Right? And having that balance.
Yeah. And I think part of balancing those yeses and nos, yes, we talked about the moral compass, we talked about financially, making sure the rates are right, the usage, making sure it brings you joy. I think another part of that is, do you have the time? Because you don't want to jeopardize your relationship with a client by you keep saying yes, 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 and you start falling behind on deadlines or you're not delivering the quality that sets up to par because the hours in the day are finite, right? Your energy is finite per day. So sometimes you might have to say no simply because you don't have the bandwidth, and you have to be okay with that because it'll be worse for you to deliver a subpar product because you didn't have the bandwidth to really do it. Yeah.
And I think it works. I mean, if you want it to, I think it can work in your favor. And especially, Erikka, for you, I think, because you are juggling a full-time job, a voiceover career, I mean, family, everything. And so the fact that you don't have the time makes it like a little easier to say no. And a lot of times when you say no, that makes people want you more.
Yes, I
Just
totally
saying.
agree.
And that makes people value you more. And that actually can turn out to be a wonderful thing for your business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or like for me, like I say no to longer form projects because I know it's going to be harder for me to fit that in. So it makes room for me to get more of the short-term stuff. And like you said, it does kind of be like, oh, well, you didn't have time for this, but I'd love you to do this, you know, like, could you do this one?
Or even, I don't know, has it ever turned around when you've said, no, I don't have time for it and they offer you more money?
They offer me more money or they offer me more time. They're like, well, if we waited till next week, could you do it? And I'd be like, well, yeah, actually I could. So,
So in a sense, absolutely. I mean, it just works out. And I'm always saying being busy is a good thing as long as you're balanced and you're not going crazy and like your health is at stake or something like that. But the being busy is good because then it's a great time, I always say, when you're that busy to raise your rates and see what happens. And it's scary as hell. But when you raise your rates and then you say, let me just see what happens, and people just, they take it.
Yeah.
And you're like, damn. And it's so funny because to us, it's like this big, like, oh my God, I'm going to raise my rates. And then the next thing you know, somebody's buying it and you're like, oh, well, that was simple. Like, why didn't I do that before?
So glad you said that, Anne, because again, the laws of business, which we have to remember as bosses, that we are not just talking into a microphone. We're not just artists. We are entrepreneurs. We are businesses. What businesses do, the law of supply and demand. If the demand goes up, guess what? The price has to go up because there's not as much supply to fulfill that. So, yeah.
That's right. It's a really wonderful thing. And I think there's too many people that let it get to them before they realize that, wow, this is how I can this is how I can actually survive. Because there's not too many people that are just doing this as a hobby. I mean, a lot of people, oh yeah, it's kind of fun. I'm dabbling in it. But in reality, the ones of us who are concerned about how do I market? How do I get the jobs? We want this to be a living. We want to be able to do this and be successful at it so that we can support our families or whatever it is that we want to do with that. And I think when it gets to that point, you've got to figure out how you're going to make that business work for you. And there are some scary, scary challenges. I say this all the time. You have to be scared of something every day, honestly. And I think that really is good for you to be a little bit scared. And I'm still scared when I raise my rates. And then I'm still like, oh, damn, that was easy. Somebody picked up on that.
Right.
It's like, now, I think you just have to be careful that you're within a market.
For sure.
You don't want to price yourself out of the market. And that is something that you have to, understand.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, again, there's a balance of worth plus the market, because you can be a little more expensive than what typically is on the market.
Yep.
And that's where I kind of like to, I don't want to say I'm expensive, but I like to say there are my values. This is my price, because I don't have time to not have it be my price.
Amen. Yes. And deliver the goods to match that price.
Yeah.
So that they are happy to pay you that.
Well, exactly. Happy and glad to pay it over and over and over again. And I don't feel guilty, right? I don't ever feel guilty, right? Have you ever felt guilty when charging a client?
I might feel guilty when I first say it, but then at the end of the job, I'm like, yeah, that was worth that. And they're happy.
You work hard.
They didn't have to come back, they got what they needed quickly. And
Well, that's so interesting that you say that too. I was on a live directed session the other day, and it boggles my mind, right? Because I said, oh, do you want to, give me some direction, or you want me to just read it and then you can give me some comments later? They're like, yeah, let's do that. I delivered the read and they're like, wow. That was perfect. And it's funny because that was quick. They're like, okay, no, that was perfect. We don't need anything else. Bam, I did it. They were like, wow, that's perfect. That was perfect. And they were so shocked and surprised and happy. And I was like, gosh, I wonder who they've been working with.
Really?
Because for me, it was just like, okay, let me just do this. And I was confident. I think confidence we should have an entire episode on confidence.
Oh, gosh, we should.
But just because I was confident, there was no reason for me to be not confident. Yeah. I do get nervous before a live session, but I'm confident in my abilities. And to be able to deliver that, but they were so surprised. And I was like, well, I'm so happy that I could deliver.
Yeah.
And guess what? They hired me again. And so it just became like, it was quick, but it was worth it for them because it was quick.
Yeah.
And I delivered what they needed quickly.
They're trading their money for you to make them spend less time. So the better that you can efficiently deliver the read and what they're looking for, so that they're not spending hours directing you on a session, they're going to appreciate that. And they're going to happily pay you because they can get more money. They don't have a lot of time. And I love what you said about, it kind of just being ready, because if you get into that session and you're nervous, I get nervous before live sessions still too.
Yeah, I do.
One thing to kind of help with that is I'm not afraid to ask questions, especially if I have a client that maybe hasn't hired a lot of voice talent, so that I get clarity on the direction that they want to go. I'll do that at the top of the session. So then I'm more secure and more confident in what I'm delivering, because it's not the guessing game and feeling it out in those first 15, 20 minutes, right? And now I've just saved them 20 minutes because I took 5 minutes to ask questions, delivered the read in 2-3 takes.
Exactly.
We're done.
Yeah, that's it. It's really delivering what they want. And that's the thing. Because maybe, you're confident in your performance, but you're not necessarily confident that you're going to deliver what they want in their ears. Yeah. So asking questions, I think, is super important. So guys, balance. I think balance in moral ethics, your value. I think that it is so important for a happy, successful career in voiceover. Yep. And I think that compromising, I think anybody that gets into this industry, I think if they're coming out of the corporate world, which I have a lot of people, trying to come out of the corporate world to do it full time. And I'm always like, well, wait just a moment before you do that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is also another worthy topic for the podcast is, your full-time job plus voiceover. How do you make it work?
And balance and a balanced approach to the exit strategy.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. But I think morally, ethically, and worth-wise, you have to have a great balance and a great sense of who you are and your worth, and to make things successful. And I believe in all of you bosses out there that it can be done. I mean, if I could do it, I've learned a lot over my 15 years. And that is a big part of what I've learned and a big part of what helped me become successful. And Erikka, I'm sure you see that every day.
Every day. Balancing the yeses and the nos, balancing what I'm going to do and not do. And for sure. Every day.
All right. Well, bosses, I'd like to give a big thank you to our sponsor, 100voiceswhocare.org. This is your chance to make a difference using your voice and give back to the communities that give to you. Find out more at 100voiceswhocare.org. And also our sponsor, IPDTL. We love IPDTL. It helps me to connect with bosses like Erikka here and all of you out there. Find out more at ipdtl.com. You guys have an amazing week, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your host, Ann Ganguza. And take your business to the next level. Sign up for our mailing list at voboss.com and receive exclusive content, industry revolutionizing tips and strategies, and new ways to rock your business like a boss. Redistribution with permission, coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.